The massive space station called Concordia floated in the darkness between star systems. It was built for one purpose: to host meetings between different alien species. Today, the most important meeting in galactic history was about to end badly. Ambassador. Sarah Chen sat at the curved table in the main conference room. Her brown hair was pulled back neatly, and her dark suit looked simple compared to the strange forms around her. Across from her sat three very different types of aliens, each representing the most powerful species in the Galactic Confederation. The first was Zar Keth, a Zephyrian. His body looked like it was made of living crystal, with blue light flowing through transparent veins. When he moved, his crystal skin made soft ringing sounds like wind chimes. The Zephyrians controlled the largest military fleet in the galaxy. Next to him floated Collective Node 779. The collective being had no fixed shape. Instead, it was a mass of gray metal pieces that moved and changed constantly, held together by some invisible force. When it spoke, all the pieces vibrated at once to make sound. The collective was a hive mind that spanned hundreds of worlds. The third alien was the strangest of all. The ethereal called itself Whisper of Ancient Stars, but it had no solid body. It appeared as a shifting cloud of silver mist that sometimes formed into almost human shapes. The ethereals were the oldest known species in the galaxy, and some said they knew secrets from before the stars were young. For 3 months, these beings had been trying to force humanity to accept their terms. The talks had started friendly enough, but now the alien representatives looked angry and impatient. Zarketh's crystal body glowed brighter as he spoke. His voice sounded like music, but there was danger in it. Human Chen, we have been more than fair. Your species spreads too fast across the galaxy. You take worlds that other species cannot live on, but you change them to suit your needs. This disrupts the natural order. The collective's metal pieces spun faster. When Node 779 spoke, its voice was like the sound of many machines, working together. Analysis shows human expansion rate exceeds safe parameters by factor of 12. Integration into Confederation oversight required for galactic stability. Compliance is not optional. The silver mist that was Whisper of Ancient Stars rippled and formed into something like a face. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from very far away. Young species, we have watched galaxies rise and fall. Your kind follows patterns we have seen before. Those who refuse wisdom face consequences beyond imagination. Sarah Chen listened to all of this without changing her expression. She had heard these same arguments every day for 3 months. The aliens wanted humanity to stop expanding. They wanted humans to ask permission before settling new worlds. They wanted humanity to follow rules made by species that had never faced the challenges Earth threw at its children. I understand your concerns, Sarah said in a calm voice. But humanity cannot accept these terms. We have already explained why. Zarketh's crystal form darkened. You explained nothing. You spoke of your need to explore, to grow, to spread among the stars, but you ignore the rights of others. What rights? Sarah asked. The right to leave entire solar systems empty because they are too dangerous for your species? The right to claim worlds you will never visit, just to keep others away from them? The right to force every species to stay in neat little boxes you have drawn on your star maps? The collective's pieces moved in angry patterns. Humans settle, worlds with radiation levels that would kill most species. You build cities in asteroid fields where ships cannot safely travel. You terraform planets with toxic atmospheres that take thousands of years to clean naturally. This behavior threatens established trade routes and territorial agreements. Sarah leaned forward slightly. We settle those worlds because we can. We adapt. We find ways to live where others cannot. And we have never claimed territory that any other species was actually using. The ethereal's mist swirled faster. Adaptation has limits, young one. Pride comes before destruction. Accept our guidance now, or face the consequences of your arrogance. The room fell silent for a long moment. Sarah Chen looked at each of the alien representatives in turn. These beings controlled fleets that could destroy entire star systems. They had technology that humanity was still trying to understand. They ruled over hundreds of species across thousands of worlds, but they had made one big mistake. They thought that because humanity was new to the galaxy, humans would be easy to control. Sarah stood up slowly. Her movement was smooth and calm, but something in the way she did it made all three aliens pay attention. The air in the room seemed to grow heavier. "Let me make sure I understand," Sarah said. Her voice was still calm, but there was something new in it now, something that made the crystal being's light flicker and the metal pieces of the collective slow their movement. "You want humanity to limit our expansion to worlds you approve of. You want us to ask permission before we explore new systems. You want us to accept that our colonies exist only because you allow it." "Correct," Zarketh said, though his musical voice had lost some of its confidence. "And if we refuse?" The collective's voice was flat and mechanical. "Confederation fleets will enforce compliance. Resistant human colonies will be placed under protective custody until proper oversight can be established." Sarah nodded slowly. "I see. And you believe you can do this because humanity is outnumbered and outgunned." Whisper of ancient stars formed what might have been a smile in its mist. "Numbers do not lie, young species. The Confederation commands resources beyond your imagination." Sarah Chen smiled for the first time during the entire 3 months of talks. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that made smart people start looking for exits. "You know what I find interesting?" Sarah said. "In all these months of talking, not one of you has asked the most important question." "Which is?" Zarketh asked. "You keep talking about how humanity needs to be controlled, but you never asked why we spread so fast in the first place. You never asked what made us so good at adapting to dangerous worlds. You never asked what kind of planet produces a species that looks at a radiation-soaked asteroid field and thinks, 'That looks like a nice place to build a home.'" The three aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Sarah picked up her datapad and stylus from the table. Her movements were still calm, still controlled, but now there was something predatory about them, like a hunter who had been pretending to be prey. "Earth tried to kill us for millions of years," Sarah said conversationally. "Ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, plague, drought, flood, earthquakes that split continents in half. Our planet threw everything it had at us, and we survived all of it. Not just survived, we thrived. We turned every challenge into an opportunity to become stronger." The room was completely silent now. Even the soft humming of the station's life support system seemed muted. "You should have accepted our original proposal for mutual coexistence," Sarah said as she walked toward the door. "You should have been content to be our neighbors and friends. You should have realized that a species tough enough to tame Earth might not react to threats the way you expect." She paused at the door and turned back to face the three most powerful beings in the known galaxy. "Now you'll see why we've survived every extinction event our planet ever threw at us." The door slid, shut behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the alien representatives alone with a growing sense that they had just made a terrible mistake. 6 months had passed since the human delegation left Concordia Station, and the galaxy had become a very quiet place. At first, the Galactic Confederation celebrated. Their leaders congratulated themselves on finally putting the upstart humans in their place. The crystal cities of the Zephyrians rang with victory songs. The collective's shared consciousness buzzed with satisfaction. The ancient ethereal spoke of wisdom prevailing over youth and foolishness, but as weeks turned into months, the silence from human space began to feel wrong. Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Crystal Dawn, staring at the tactical display. The massive warship was one of 50 vessels in the 3rd Reconnaissance Fleet, sent to patrol the border of human territory. What they found there made no sense. "Report," Velthar commanded. His crystalline body pulsed with nervous blue light. Navigation Officer Chrismel consulted her instruments. Her crystal form was smaller than the commander's, and her light flickered with uncertainty. "Sir, we have attempted to contact the human colony on Kepler 442b 17 times. No response to any frequency." "Jamming?" No, sir. Our signals are getting through. The colony's communication arrays are online and functional. They're just not answering. Velthar's light dimmed with worry. Human colonies were many things, but silent was not one of them. Humans loved to talk. They sent messages about everything: trade requests, scientific discoveries, complaints about weather, jokes that made no sense to other species. The silence was completely unlike them. What about the automated beacons? Still broadcasting. Sir, colony status shows green across all systems. Population centers show normal energy output. It's as if everyone is just not talking. 3 systems away, the collective was having similar problems. Node Prime Alpha examined the data streams flowing through its shared consciousness. Hundreds of collective ships had tried to make contact with human settlements. The results were always the same: active colonies that simply would not respond. The collective found this particularly disturbing because they were experts at communication. Their hive mind could process thousands of conversations at once across vast distances. But human space had become a dead zone in the galactic communication network. Even more troubling were the probe ships. The Confederation had sent automated scouts to gather information about human activities. These probes were sophisticated pieces of technology, equipped with advanced sensors and stealth systems. They were designed to observe without being detected. They vanished, not destroyed. That would have left debris or energy signatures. Not captured. That would have shown up on sensor sweeps. The probes simply entered human space and stopped existing. No final transmissions, no distress signals, no trace that they had ever been there at all. Admiral Keth 9 of the Collective reviewed the data for the 100th time. 47 probe ships had been sent into human territory over the past 6 months. 47 probe ships had disappeared without a trace. The probability calculations made his mechanical mind ache. Analysis suggests technological advancement beyond current parameters, he reported to the collective consciousness. Human capabilities may have been underestimated. The response from the hive mind was immediate and unsettling. For the first time in the collective's history, there was disagreement in their shared thoughts. Some nodes wanted to send more probes. Others suggested a full military investigation. A few even whispered about the possibility of retreat. The ethereals, ancient and wise, were the most disturbed of all. Whisper of ancient stars floated in the meditation chamber of their great ship, trying to understand what had gone wrong. The ethereals had dealt with thousands of younger species over the eons. They knew the patterns of development, the ways that civilizations responded to pressure. But this was different. Humans had not raged or threatened or made desperate attempts at diplomacy. They had simply withdrawn. It was like watching a predator stop hunting and disappear into tall grass. You knew it was still there, but you couldn't see it anymore, and that made it infinitely more dangerous. Something has changed, Whisper of Ancient Stars murmured to its fellow ethereals. The humans are not behaving as they should. Perhaps they are preparing for war, suggested Echo of Dying Light. No, Whisper of Ancient Stars replied. This is not preparation. This is transformation. The silence stretched on. Trade routes that passed through human space found themselves mysteriously rerouted. Ships that tried to use established jump points near human systems discovered that their navigation computers would not lock onto the coordinates. It was as if human space was slowly disconnecting itself from the rest of the galaxy. Independent merchants brought back strange reports. Some claimed to have seen human ships in the distance, but when they tried to approach, their sensors would malfunction. Others reported that human colonies looked normal from far away, but something felt wrong about them. No one could explain exactly what was different. The most disturbing reports came from the edge of human territory. Long-range sensors detected massive energy readings coming from the Sol system, Earth's home. But when investigation fleets tried to get closer, they found their ships suffering mysterious mechanical failures. Nothing dangerous, just small problems that forced them to turn back for repairs. Captain Thosvel of the Zephyrian Navy commanded a heavy cruiser called Bright Harmony. He had been ordered to investigate the energy readings from Sol, but his ship had developed 17 different minor problems in the past week. Life support hiccups, navigation errors, communication static, nothing that would threaten the crew but enough to make a close approach impossible. "It's like the ship doesn't want to go there," his engineer reported. The young Zephyrian's crystal body flickered with confusion. "Every system I repair works perfectly until we get within 50 light-years of Sol. Then something else breaks." Captain Thosfell had been in the Navy for 300 years. He had fought pirates, explored unknown sectors, and survived the HFY War. But he had never encountered anything like this. It felt like the entire region of space around Earth was actively discouraging visitors. The Confederation's leaders held emergency sessions. Grand Admiral Zix Chorus of the Zephyrians argued for a massive show of force. "We must demonstrate our strength before the humans can complete whatever they are planning." Node Supreme 1 of the collective disagreed. "Insufficient data for informed action. Current human capabilities unknown. Recommend extended observation." The Ethereal Council was split. Some wanted to attempt renewed negotiations. Others suggested that perhaps the Confederation had made an error in judgment. A few ancient voices whispered about events from long ago, about species that had simply vanished when pushed too far. As the debates continued, the reports from human space grew stranger. Ships that managed to get close to human colonies reported seeing cities that looked normal but felt empty, not abandoned. There were signs of life, of activity, of ongoing maintenance. But something fundamental had changed. The humans were still there, but they were no longer the same species that had left Concordia Station 6 months ago. And deep in their ancient memories, the ethereals began to remember stories about other young species who had faced extinction and chosen adaptation instead of destruction. Those stories never ended well for the species who had forced the choice. The galaxy was about to learn why some challenges should never be issued, and why the silence before a storm is always more terrifying than the wind and rain that follow. The decision to investigate Sol directly came from the highest levels of the Confederation. After 6 months of silence and vanishing probes, the leadership could no longer ignore what was happening in human space. They needed answers. The collective's largest hive ship, Unity of Purpose, led the investigation fleet. The massive vessel was over 10 kilometers long and housed 50,000 individual units of the collective consciousness. Its sensors could detect a single atom of unusual matter from a light year away. If anyone could discover what the humans were hiding, it would be them. Node Commander 001 stood in the ship's central processing chamber, its mechanical body connected to thousands of data streams. The collective had chosen its most analytical minds for this mission. Whatever the humans had done, they would understand it and find a way to counter it. "Approaching Sol system outer perimeter," reported the navigation cluster. "All sensors, online and recording." The first thing they noticed was that the asteroid belt looked different. Instead of the scattered rocks and mining stations that should have been there, they found something else entirely. Geometric structures hung in space where asteroids used to be. Perfect spheres and cubes and shapes that had no names, all connected by streams of energy that pulsed with mathematical precision. "Analysis," 001 commanded. The science cluster worked for several minutes before responding. Structures appear to be constructed from processed asteroid material. Energy readings suggest advanced matter conversion technology. Purpose unknown. 001 felt something that the collective rarely experienced: uncertainty. The structures were clearly artificial, but they followed no design principles in any known database. They looked like someone had taken the raw material of space and turned it into something completely new. "Continue to inner system," 001 ordered. What they found at Mars made the entire collective consciousness recoil in shock. The red planet was gone. In its place hung a sphere of silver metal that reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at. The sphere was exactly the same size as Mars had been, but it was clearly not a natural world anymore. Streams of energy connected the transformed Mars to similar spheres where the moons of Jupiter should have been. Even Jupiter itself looked different. Its great red spot had been replaced by a swirling pattern of lights that pulsed in time with the energy streams throughout the system. "Impossible," whispered the engineering cluster. Planetary transformation, on this scale, would require energy equivalent to a small star. Scan for human life signs, 001 commanded. The results made no sense. There were no individual human biosignatures anywhere in the system. But the energy patterns flowing through all the structures matched human neural frequencies. Millions of them, billions of them, all connected in ways that made the collective's hive mind look simple by comparison. Then they reached Earth's orbital zone, and even the vast processing power of the collective could not immediately comprehend what they were seeing. Earth was still there, but it was no longer a planet. It had become something else, a perfect sphere of blue-white light that pulsed, with the rhythm of a living heart. Around it, in perfect geometric formation, hung 12 smaller spheres that had once been Earth's moon, broken apart and reformed into something new. The entire Sol system had been turned into a machine, but not the kind of machine that any known species built. This was organic and mechanical at the same time, alive and artificial, individual and collective. It was beautiful and terrifying, and completely beyond anything in the Confederation's experience. "Sir," the communication cluster reported, its voice shaking with digital fear. "We're receiving a transmission." "Put it through." The voice that filled the processing chamber was human, but it was also more than human. It spoke with one voice, but that voice contained multitudes, millions, of individual personalities speaking in perfect harmony. "Greetings, collective hiveship unity of purpose. We are humanity. We appreciate your visit, but we must ask you to maintain your current distance." 001 struggled to respond. The voice was calm and polite, but it came from everywhere, at once, not just the transformed Earth, but from every structure in the system, as if the entire solar system had become a single vast organism. What have you done?" 001 managed to ask. "We have become what we needed to become," humanity replied. "Your Confederation demanded our submission. You threatened our colonies and our way of life. So we chose adaptation over destruction, evolution over surrender. This is impossible. No species can achieve this level of technological integration." "No known species," humanity corrected gently. "But you forget. Humans have always been very good at doing impossible things when survival is at stake." The science cluster was working frantically, trying to understand what they were seeing. The energy readings were off every scale. The transformed planets weren't just connected by energy streams. They were sharing matter at the quantum level, constantly rebuilding and improving themselves. It was technology so advanced that it looked like magic. "How many of you are there?" 001 asked. "All of us," humanity answered. "Every human who chose to join the synthesis. Our bodies are gone, but our minds remain, connected in ways that individual consciousness cannot imagine. We are one, but we are also billions. We are human, but we are also more than human." 001 felt the collective consciousness struggling to process this information. Their own hive mind was impressive, but it was still based on individual units working together. What the humans had achieved was complete integration, not a collection of minds, but a single mind made from many. "You have 72 hours. Humanity continued, and now there was something dangerous in that harmonious voice. "Withdraw all Confederation forces from human space. Send formal apologies to our colonies for your threats. This is not a negotiation." And if we refuse, the answer came not in words, but in demonstration. 3 asteroids at the edge of the Yo system suddenly began to change, their rocky surfaces flowing like liquid as they transformed into perfect geometric shapes. In seconds, 3 lumps of space rock had become 3 more of the mysterious silver spheres. "We have learned to reshape matter at the molecular level," humanity explained. "We can convert any material into anything we need, asteroids into ships, planets into computers, energy into matter, and matter into energy. Your fleets are made of metal and crystal and organic compounds. To us, they are simply raw materials waiting to be reorganized." The demonstration continued. Several of the geometric structures around the transformed Mars began to pulse with new energy patterns. Long-range sensors detected similar activity in dozens of other human systems. Whatever humanity had become, it was spread throughout their entire territory. "We tried to warn you," humanity said sadly. "Ambassador Chen told you that Earth had tried to kill us for millions of years and failed. She told you that humans were very good at adapting to challenges. You chose not to listen." 001 realized with growing horror that the humans were right. The Confederation had focused on humanity's military capabilities, their expansion rate, their stubborn independence. They had completely missed the real danger, a species so adaptable that they could evolve beyond recognition when threatened. "What do you want from us?" 001 asked. "What we have always wanted," humanity replied. "To be left alone to live our lives as we choose, to explore and grow and adapt without interference, to be neighbors instead of subjects. And if we agree to these terms, then we will return to being the species you remember, curious, friendly, eager to trade and share knowledge. But we will never again be the species you can threaten or control." The transmission ended, leaving the collective alone with the sight of an entire solar system that had become something beyond their comprehension. 001 knew that they had to return to Confederation space immediately and report what they had seen. But as the unity of purpose turned to leave, every member of the collective consciousness was thinking the same thing. They had not encountered a more advanced human civilization. They had encountered what happened when you threatened a species that would rather transform itself into something unrecognizable than submit to anyone else's will. The humans had kept their promise. The Confederation's response would indeed terrify the galaxy, but the terror was only beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation High Council took place on Nexus Prime, the most heavily defended station in known space. Representatives from every major species had gathered to hear the collective's report about Sol System, and none of them were prepared for what they learned. Grand Admiral Zix Chorus of the Zephyrians stood before the assembled council, his crystal body blazing with angry light. "The report is clearly false," he declared. "No species can achieve planetary transformation in 6 months. The collective sensors must have malfunctioned." Node Supreme 1 of the collective rotated slowly, its mechanical parts clicking with irritation. "Collective sensors do not malfunction. Data has been verified by 17 different analysis clusters. Humans have achieved technological transcendence." "Impossible," hissed Ambassador Velthos of the Serpentine Hegemony. The snake-like aliens' scales rippled with disbelief. "Our scientists estimate it would take 10,000 years to develop such capabilities." Whisper of Ancient Stars floated silently for a long moment before speaking. The ethereal's misty form was darker than usual, filled with ancient worry. "Not impossible. Improbable, yes. But we have seen such transformations before, in the deep past. Some species, when faced with extinction, choose change over death. Then we destroy them before they become more dangerous," Grand Admiral Zix Chorus declared. "I have assembled the largest fleet in Confederation history, 5,000 ships from 12 different species. Whatever the humans have become, they cannot stand against such force." Node Supreme 1's parts spun faster. Recommendation: gather more data before military action. Current human capabilities remain unknown, but the Admiral's crystal form was blazing with determination. 72 hours, they said. Well, those hours are almost up, and the Confederation does not bow to threats from upstart species, no matter what tricks they have learned. The fleet that assembled at the edge of Sol System was truly massive. Zephyrian crystal ships that could shatter planets with harmonic resonance. Collective hive vessels that processed information faster than most civilizations could think. Ethereal voidwalkers that moved through space like living ghosts. Serpentine dreadnoughts armed with weapons that could burn away atmospheres. 5,000 ships, representing the combined military might of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. It was enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. Grand Admiral Zix Chorus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive crystal cathedral Eternal Harmony, and felt confident that whatever the humans had become, they would surrender when faced with such overwhelming force. "Take us in," he commanded. All ships maintain battle formation, prepare for human surrender. What they found waiting for them defied every assumption about warfare that the Confederation had ever made. The transformed structures throughout Sol system had moved. The geometric shapes that had once orbited in perfect mathematical patterns were now arranged in a sphere around the inner system, like a protective shell. But they were not hiding behind these structures. They were welcoming the Confederation fleet into a trap. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, her crystal form flickering with confusion. "Human constructs are not taking defensive positions. They appear to be studying us." Admiral Zix Chorus felt his first moment of doubt. The human structures were indeed scanning the Confederation fleet, but not like enemies preparing for battle. It was more like scientists examining interesting specimens. Then the humans began to demonstrate exactly what they had become. It started with a single serpentine destroyer on the fleet's outer edge. The ship was there one moment, and then it simply wasn't. Not destroyed, not damaged, not even attacked. It had been there, and then it was gone, as if it had never existed at all. "Report," Admiral Zix Chorus demanded. "Sir," the destroyer Venomous, "Strike has disappeared. No energy discharge detected, no weapons fire, no." The tactical officer stopped speaking because 3 more ships had just vanished in the same impossible way. "All ships evasive maneuvers," the admiral commanded. "Return fire." The Confederation fleet opened up with everything they had. Crystal harmonics that could shatter moons, plasma bolts that burned hotter than stars, gravity weapons that could crush matter into singularities. The combined firepower of 5,000 ships lit up space with destructive energy. None of it reached the human constructs. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons fire, all of it, simply stopped, existing a few thousand kilometers from the human structures. Not absorbed, not deflected, not blocked. The energy just ceased to be, as if the humans had somehow convinced physics that those attacks had never been fired. Then the real horror began. The vanished Confederation ships began to reappear, but they were different now. The familiar hulls and structures were gone, replaced by the same geometric forms that filled Sol system. As the watching fleet stared in growing terror, they realized what was happening. The humans weren't destroying their ships. They were converting them. "Impossible," whispered the admiral. But even as he spoke, more ships began to vanish. Dozens, then hundreds, disappearing from the fleet formation and reappearing as human constructs that immediately joined the defensive pattern around Sol. The process was not violent. Ships didn't explode or break apart. They simply became something else, as if their fundamental nature was being rewritten at the most basic level. Metal became the strange silver material of human constructs. Organic components transformed into energy patterns. Weapon systems changed into structures whose purpose was incomprehensible, but clearly not hostile. Communication attempts with the converted ships revealed something even more disturbing. The crews were still alive, still conscious, but they were no longer separate individuals. They had become part of the greater human consciousness, and they were happy about it. "Admiral," came a transmission from what had once been the collective hive ship silent calculation. The voice was still recognizably Node Commander 4047, but it was somehow different, calmer, more complete. "I want you to know that we are not harmed, we are improved. The humans do not destroy, they integrate. They make things better. Return to your original form immediately," Admiral Zix Chorus commanded. "We cannot return," came the reply, "and we would not want to. You do not understand what we have become. We are still ourselves, but we are also part of something greater. The loneliness is gone, Admiral. The fear is gone. We are home." More ships vanished. The massive ethereal voidwalker whisper of eternity became a spiraling tower of light. 3 Zephyrian battlecruisers transformed into crystalline structures that sang with harmonies no single species could create. An entire wing of serpentine fighters became a flowing, snake-like construct that moved through space with impossible grace. Each conversion happened faster than the last, as if the humans were learning and improving their technique with every ship they transformed. What had taken minutes at first now happened in seconds. "All ships, retreat," Admiral Zix's chorus finally commanded. Full retreat. But even as the surviving ships tried to flee, the truth became clear. The humans could have converted the entire fleet instantly if they had wanted to. They were taking their time, being selective, making a point. They were not conquering the Confederation fleet. They were teaching it a lesson. As the Eternal Harmony limped away from Sol System with less than half the fleet that had arrived, Admiral Zix's chorus realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare had become obsolete. The humans had not fought them. They had simply demonstrated that the very concept of fighting had become meaningless when one side could rewrite the rules of reality itself. The greatest military force in galactic history had been defeated not by superior weapons or tactics, but by an enemy that had evolved beyond the need for either. And the most terrifying part was that the humans had been gentle about it. They could have converted every ship, every crew member, every last trace of the Confederation fleet. Instead, they had sent most of them home with a message that was impossible to ignore. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. The only question was whether the other species would accept that fact peacefully, or whether they would force the humans to be less polite about demonstrating their new reality. The news of the fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy in less than a week. What remained of the Confederation's military forces found themselves facing a choice that no galactic power had ever confronted before: surrender to a species they had tried to control, or watch their entire civilization be gently but irresistibly transformed into something unrecognizable. The response was not what anyone expected. Instead of panic or desperate last stands, something else began to happen throughout Confederation space. Ships that had been damaged in conflicts with pirates found themselves mysteriously repaired overnight. Colonies suffering from plague or famine discovered that their problems had been solved by unknown benefactors. Worlds that had been strip-mined and left barren began to show signs of new life. The humans were not conquering the galaxy, they were healing it. On the Zephyrian homeworld of Crystalline, Grand Admiral Zix's chorus stood in the Chamber of Harmonies, watching his people argue about what to do next. The great crystal spires that housed their civilization rang with discordant notes as fear and confusion spread through their society. "We must fight," declared General Kethvar, her crystal body blazing with defiant light. "We cannot surrender to a species that threatens our very existence." "What existence?" asked philosopher Zental, his form flickering with uncertainty. "Half our fleet has been converted into human constructs. Our weapons cannot touch them. Our ships cannot escape them if they decide to pursue. What fight is there to make?" The argument was interrupted by a soft chime from the chamber's communication array. A holographic display activated, showing the familiar face of Ambassador Saracen. But she looked different now. Calmer, more serene, as if some great burden had been lifted from her shoulders. "Greetings, people of Crystallon," she said. "I am speaking to you from what you knew as Earth, though we have moved beyond such limited designations. I bring an offer of peace and partnership." Admiral Zix's chorus stepped forward, his crystal form dark with suspicion. "What trick is this? Your people threatened us with 72 hours to surrender." Sarah smiled sadly. "Not surrender, Admiral. Withdrawal from human space and formal apologies for your threats against our colonies. You chose neither option, so we demonstrated why those choices would have been wise. You destroyed our fleet." "We improved your fleet," Sarah corrected gently. "Every crew member who joined us did so willingly once they understood what we were offering. They are not prisoners or slaves. They are partners in something greater than any individual species could achieve alone." The hologram gestured and new images appeared. The converted Confederation ships were not weapons of war anymore. They had become exploration vessels, research stations, and manufacturing platforms. The crews that had once served the various military forces were now working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species. "Former Node Commander 4047 wishes to speak to you," Sarah said. The image changed to show what had once been a typical collective unit. But the mechanical being's form had evolved incorporating elements of crystal and energy that made it beautiful rather than merely functional. Admiral Zixchorus, the transformed being, said, "I know you are afraid. We were all afraid at first. But the fear was based on misunderstanding. The humans do not seek to destroy what we are. They seek to help us become what we could be. You are no longer yourself," the Admiral accused. "I am more myself than I have ever been," came the reply. "I am still collective, still connected to my people's hive mind. But now I am also connected to something larger, to the dreams and hopes of dozens of species working together. The loneliness of individual consciousness is gone, but the uniqueness of each perspective remains." General Kethvar stepped forward, her crystal body blazing. "This is madness. You speak of losing your identity to become part of some human collective." Sarah Chen's image returned. "Not human anymore, General. We have moved beyond species labels. When your people join us, and we hope they will choose to do so, they will not become human. They will help us all become something new together." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Zixchorus asked. "Then you will be left alone," Sarah said simply. "We will not force anyone to join us, but we will also not allow any species to threaten others or cause unnecessary suffering. The galaxy has experienced enough war, enough poverty, enough preventable death." As if to demonstrate the point, new images appeared showing Confederation worlds that had been struggling with various problems. A serpentine colony that had been dying from a genetic plague was now thriving, its people healthy and happy. A Zephyrian, mining world that had been exhausted and abandoned was green again, its crystal caves singing with new harmonies. "How?" whispered philosopher Zentel. "We have learned to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level," Sarah explained. "Healing sick worlds is no more difficult than healing sick individuals. Converting asteroids into habitable planets takes the same techniques we use to transform our own solar system." The implications hit Admiral Zixchorus like a physical blow. The humans had not just developed superior weapons, they had developed the ability to solve every problem that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Scarcity, disease, environmental destruction, resource conflicts, all of it could be eliminated with human intervention. "Why?" he asked. "Why help us after we threatened you?" Sarah's expression grew sad. "Because despite everything, we remember what it was like to be afraid and alone in a hostile universe. We remember struggling to survive while our own planet tried to kill us. We do not want any other species to face extinction when we have the power to prevent it. But there must be a price," General Kethvar insisted. "Nothing is given freely." "The price is simple," Sarah said. "Stop fighting each other. Stop hoarding resources while others suffer. Stop treating the galaxy as if it belongs to the strongest species instead of all the species that call it home." She paused, and her image was joined by others, representatives of every species that had joined the human synthesis. Collective nodes, ethereal wisps, serpentine diplomats, and dozens of others that the Confederation had never seen before. "We are not human anymore," they said in perfect harmony, each voice distinct but part of a greater whole. "We are not Zephyrian, or collective or ethereal. We are something new, a partnership of minds and species working together for the benefit of all life." Admiral Zixchorus looked around the chamber of harmonies. The other Zephyrians were listening intently, their crystal forms flickering with complex emotions. Fear was still there, but it was being joined by something else. Hope. "What would happen to our culture?" Philosopher Zental asked. "Our music, our art, our way of understanding the universe?" "It would be preserved and shared," the harmonious voices replied. "Every species that joins us brings their unique perspective. Zephyrian crystal song now combines with collective data rhythms and ethereal void whispers to create music that no single species could imagine. Your culture will not be lost. It will become part of something magnificent." The choice was not really a choice at all. Across the galaxy, species after species reached the same conclusion. They could resist and watch their world slowly heal, without their input, or they could join the partnership and help guide the transformation of galactic civilization. Most chose partnership. The few species that refused were not punished or forced to change their minds. They were simply left alone on their worlds, which continued to receive aid and protection, but no pressure to join the synthesis. Some eventually changed their minds as they watched their neighbors thrive. Others remained independent, accepting the benefits of living in a galaxy where war and scarcity had become obsolete. Within a year, the Galactic Confederation ceased to exist as a political entity. It was replaced by something that had no name because names implied separation and boundaries. The new partnership was simply life working together for the benefit of life, with no central authority needed because everyone involved shared the same fundamental goal. Ambassador Sarah Chen, speaking now for billions of integrated minds across thousands of worlds, addressed the galaxy one final time from the transformed Earth. "We tried to warn you that humanity's greatest strength was not our aggression, but our adaptability," she said. "When faced with extinction, we do not just survive, we evolve. We offered you partnership as we were, but you demanded our submission. So we became something that could not be submitted." The image expanded to show the transformed solar system, now connected by streams of light to similar constructs in thousands of other star systems. The galaxy had become a living organism, with each world and each species contributing to the health and growth of the whole. Now we offer partnership as we are now, guardians of all life, protectors of all species, partners in the greatest adventure that consciousness has ever undertaken. The exploration of what we can become when we work together instead of against each other. The transmission ended with an invitation that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. A simple message that any species, any individual, any form of life could accept whenever they were ready. Welcome home.